2 of the palace guards, ever vigilant for a potential intruder. Something like that, anyway. Shouldn't you have stopped me by now?
What?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm practically into the palace itself, and you haven't even asked who I am.
We can already tell you aren't important.
Not important? I might be a foreign spy.
Accent's too clean for that. I'd say you were born here in Ankh-Morpork.
How can you tell?
Accents. He knows them all.
Ah, hidden talents, eh?
We're guards. All our talents are hidden.
So, you're members of the illustrious palace guards, are you?
Illustrious? Do you know what it means to be a palace guard? We're arrow fodder. If anyone with half-decent skills breaks into the palace, you'll be picking our limbs out of the tapestries.
So why do you do it?
It beats being in the city watch.
And the uniforms are much nicer, too. You used to be in the city watch, didn't you?
You can tell that from my accent.
Would I lie to you?
So, you're an expert on accents.
Oh, yeah. I can tell all sorts of things about you.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
From the stress in your voice, I'd say you experienced a major emotional event about 8 years ago. You like to drink, but if you're not careful, you drink to excess. And you like whiskey.
That really is incredible. Anything else?
That's about it.
You didn't say which part of the city I was born in.
No, that's trickier.
You can tell that I drink whiskey from my accent, but you can't tell which part of the city I was born in.
Well, it comes and goes.
You don't know anything about accents, do you?
Of course he doesn't. He just has a good memory.
You were in the bucket a couple of years ago. You were probably too drunk to remember it.
A couple of years ago, I was too drunk to remember anything. So if you don't know anything about accents, how do you know I'm not a threat to the palace?
If you knew what it was we were guarding, you'd understand.
Is it really that dangerous working for the palace?
Oh, yeah. Our lives could come to a bloody end at any moment.
He's lying, of course. He's always lying. No enemies have ever entered Ankh-Morpork since it was founded.
What about the dwarf attack in the reign of Veltric II? Or the barbarian invasion in the time of Webblethorpe the Unconscious?
Well, of course, technically, we've been invaded quite frequently, but, you know how it is. The guys arrive, they meet a nice local girl, and anyway, their leaders suddenly don't want all the big houses burned down because now they own them, and they find sleeping on real beds is a treat after all that time in the saddle. And what with one thing and another, it all ends peacefully.
In other words, you don't have much to do.
Well, there's a lot of standing around to do, but it's not like the golden age of the kings of Ankh.
The golden age?
Well, it was a time long enough ago that no one can remember how wretched it was.
What is it you're guarding?
Every way into and out of the palace has to be guarded, and we guard one of those.
That's a little vague.
We guard the vital export of post-palatial merchandise.
We guard the trash heap.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
Where is it?
The trash heap? It's around the corner.
But don't steal anything. That's palace garbage. By royal appointment.
Well, by the Patrician's appointment.
That's good enough for me.
Do you know a lot about the kings of Ankh?
Oh, sure. The whole history of the monarchy.
How come?
Oh, hanging around palaces. You pick up that kind of thing.
What happened to the kings of Ankh?
Well, the real line came to an end about 2,000 years ago. And after that, we got 17 centuries of a monarchy where the crown was available to anyone with enough soldiers and a strong stomach.
That couldn't have been very stable.
Stable? Ha! Not many lines survived more than 2 or 3 generations. Some of them didn't even make it to the end of the coronation feast.
The shortest reign on record was that of Loyola the Arg at 1.13 seconds.
Can't have been much of a monarch.
That's nothing. For a week, Ankh-Morpork was technically ruled by a wasp. And for several days, by the left foot of the high priest of Io, who dropped the crown on it during the crucial point of the ceremony.
The foot was one of the better rulers, apparently. Made good decisions.
The palace buys a lot of wine, doesn't it?
Why do you want to know?
Just a casual interest in wine.
Your only interest in alcohol is whiskey, and that's more than a casual interest.
It's a hobby.
Most hobbies don't leave you unconscious on the barroom tiles.
Where do the barrels end up?
Around the corner.
Well, when they've been emptied, they do.
Do you know anything about the crate belonging to the von Uberwalds that was on the Milka?
Do we look like we know anything about the cargo business?
With the Assassin's Guild looking everywhere for two conkers, I couldn't trust anyone enough to tell them I was looking for somewhere safe to hide him. Do you know anything about the counterweight killings?
Have we heard that a mad assassin is coming after the Patrician? Of course.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to ignore the prospect of being carved up by some psychopathic killer.
If he's a good assassin, he wouldn't need to kill any of the guards.
That's not very comforting, is it? I mean, our only hope of survival is that this guy is good enough that we don't stand a chance against him.
Well, what's the worst that could happen?
You mean apart from being hacked into minced beef by a foreign killer?
I suppose he might just kill the Patrician and let us live. Then we'd only have to worry about being killed by the Assassin's Guild.
What?
He's got this idea in his head that the Patrician has given an advance to the Assassin's Guild so that in the event of his death, all of his bodyguards meet the same fate.
Where did you get that idea from?
This priest down at the Temple of Small Gods, he knows everything that's going on in the city.
This priest you mentioned, his name wouldn't be Malaclips, would it?
That's the one. Do you know him?
We've met. What do you make of him?
I reckon he's the only one in the city who knows what's really going on.
Which is funny, because I think he's a deranged lunatic whose only pleasure in life is getting gullible fools to listen to him.
So, I'm a gullible fool, am I? Who bought those magic beans off that gypsy the other month?
Hey, you should have tried the casserole we made with them. It was magic.
Does this bracelet mean anything to you?
Well, it looks like a charm bracelet. You could probably sell it to my friend here. He's a sucker for that sort of thing.
Hey, I am not.
What about the poultice of protection you brought from cut-me-own-throat Dibbler?
Hey, he told me that it would protect me from fatal physical attacks for the rest of my life, and I believe him.
So do I. Probably won't protect you from the fatal blow that kills you, but it'll protect you from any fatal wounds you suffer before then.
There's one born every minute.
Well, if you're so smart, why don't you tell us about the bracelet?
If I wanted to know about the bracelet, I'd take it to the Temple of Small Gods.
Not this Malaclips charlatan again.
Don't knock it. He knows more than you'd think he does.
That wouldn't be difficult.
See you around.
If you say so.
The palace walls were useful for keeping intruders out and keeping the roof in place. What was I going to do? Scale the walls with my bare hands? If I was going to use the grapple to scale the wall, I needed something that I could aim for and anchor to. The empty barrels at the foot of the palace wall looked like they used to have wine in them. As far as I could tell, the barrels were just like the ones in the wine cellar of the Café Ankh, although these ones were empty. It was possible that these barrels had been on the Milka once.